want to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Ramflex here, back with a new Shadowverse 2 video. This video is going to be about the newest cards added to Rune for set 3. I think it's called Heir to Omens. I could be wrong. I should probably have checked that. This is my 4th video, and I actually don't know what the set name is, but whatever. This will be a hot take. Rune didn't get many good cards at all, and if you want to skip this video and just watch the other videos, then go ahead. I will have the timestamps below, and there is one card I want to point out, which is Institute of Truth, this card. This is the sole card that I think has any sauce for Rune, maybe Raio as well, but if you want to stay and listen to the cope of Rune, then go ahead. Otherwise, I have plenty of other stuff, and we'll just get right into it. So the first card we'll talk about is going to be Devotee of Truth. It's a 2-mana 2/2 fanfare if this card does not cost 2, restore 3 health. This card is a 1 out of 5 or a 1 out of 5 in both Constructed and Take 2, because the issue with this card is that it requires support from your deck to actually get its effect, and Rune has plenty of 2/2s already that either have a better effect or aren't conditional. So, and also Rune already heals plenty, so you don't even need this card to heal. So maybe you could play this in Dirt, but until this like concept gets more support, this card is way too hard to activate for a very, very poor upside. So yeah, don't play this card even in Take 2. The next card is going to be the first legendary we'll cover. 2-mana 1/1, fanfare, draw a card, Velharia, Heir to Truth. This card is not that great. So when you evo it, you banish an enemy follower, and then when you super evo it, you ban all copies of that enemy follower. So this is okay against stuff like, I guess, Sword, if there's like dogs or like tokens, against like, I guess like there's like some Motivist cards that also have a lot of tokens. So this card is better than it looks. I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 in Constructed and like a 3.5. I'll say 3.5 in Take 2 because you'd rather have the other Rune legendaries in Take 2. A 2-mana cycle is very mediocre. But I guess the thing in Shadowverse 2 is that the 2-mana cards aren't really that good. So being a 1/1 in the 2-mana slot is not as bad as you might think it is. The issue is that Rune already, like in Constructed, Rune is already fighting really hard for card slots. So in my opinion, anything that's below a 4 out of 5 is not playable for existing meta Constructed decks. That's why Velharia is at 3 out of 5. You could find slots for her in like rogue decks, so like in Dirt Rune for example, she could be played because she gives you some cycle, and Dirt Rune isn't as great on the cycling as Spell Boost is. Like in Tempo Rune, if that's a thing, you could play Velharia because she gives you an Evo, which will help you, you know, kill a bunch of minions in a pinch. Like, that can be a thing. But you'd rather just play stuff and Evo stuff like, you know, Angrea. You'd rather Super Evo stuff like Kuon. You'd rather play Raio if you're going to do a meme. Like, there's a lot of things you'd rather do with Rune that don't involve Velharia. So, she is playable, but she's like a filler. She's like a, oh, I'm like 37 out of 40 cards. What can I put in? I'll just put in like 2 Velharias and then 1 Cositas and call it a day, sort of deal. The next card is going to be a 2-mana spell called Illusory Conjuration. Wow, I can speak. This is going to be a select a follower in your hand, increase cost by 1, and then destroy an enemy random enemy follower. So this card, I think in Constructed, it's going to be like a 2 out of 5. And in Take 2, I would say it's a 3 out of 5. The issue with Illusory Conjuration is that it's too punishing. Like, it's destroy a random enemy follower, so you can't even target the actual one you want to kill. So you might kill a token by accident, and you have to increase a follower by 1. There are certain minions that this is fine for, like Blaze Destroyer, for example. Like, who cares if you're Spell Boost? Kuon, if you're aiming for like a 10 enhanced Kuon, go ahead. Who cares? Like, even Angrea in certain scenarios. Like, if you have 2 Angreas, and you're like, oh, I'm definitely playing 2 Angreas in a row, you can just increase Angrea. Like, who cares? So the card's not terrible, but it's not good enough to be played in Spell Boost. Again, below 4 out of 5, not good enough for meta. But in Take 2, it's like very okay, essentially. The next card we're going to talk about is going to be Congregant of Truth. So this is a 3-mana 3/1 fanfare. If the card's cost is not 3, summon 2 exact copies of it. Comes with Rush. And if you Super Evo, she summons another copy of herself, probably with Super Evo. So this card has some sauce to it. We'll talk about the sauce in the next card that we talk about, but essentially, if you adjust this card in any way, you summon like a lot of minions. So I think in Constructed, This is a 3 out of 5. Again, below 4 out of 5, not good enough. But in Take 2, I think this card is, with support, again, with support, this card is a 5 out of 5. But if you can't trigger the fanfare, it is a 2 out of 5, or, yeah. So the reason why it's lower without support is because, again, a 3-mana 3-1 rush is okay, but it's not that great. But if you can activate its effect, it is super efficient in Take 2. So, yeah, like, just imagine, like, again, with the next card, we'll see why it's really efficient. And if you manage to get Raio on it, or, like, something else with it, like a 2-mana summon 3/3/1s is really, really good. So, again, with support in Take 2, it's way more efficient, but if you don't have that support, it's pretty bad. And because Rune only has 2 rerolls, it's unlikely that this card's actually going to be good in Take 2. But if you get the upside, pop off. The next card we'll talk about is going to be a 3-mana amulet, and it's going to be Institute of Truth with a countdown of 5. So whenever you play a follower with a adjusted cost, you draw a card and advance the amulet by 1. And when you engage it, you can choose a follower, increase its cost, and give it 1/1. So again, you can see why this card with Congregant of Truth is really efficient, because if you play this card, you can engage immediately, and then your Congregant of Truth becomes a 4-mana 4/2. So you can play this, you can play Congregant on turn 4 and have 3 4/2s. So you essentially have dogs 2 turns sooner, which like might not seem that crazy, but you can guess like, oh, like if you have like turn 4 and Take 2, you have something else to play. So you just buff Congregant of Truth again. Turn 5, you play Congregant of Truth. That's 3 5/3s, or you buff something. So now you have a 6-mana Congregant of Truth. That's a 6-mana 6/4. Or you keep going. Like, if you manage to buff Congregant of Truth and not play a cost adjustment every single turn, you can buff it 5 times total, I think. And if you buff it 5 times, that means on turn 8, you have 3 8/6s for 3, which for Take 2 is an immense swing. Obviously, that is 2 cards invested. It's Congregant of Truth and Institute of Truth, but that's still a pretty impressive. Like, if you manage to stall out that long, that's pretty impressive. Now, the reason why I think this card is really funny is because of the other. It's a neutral card. If you guys haven't seen my neutral library review, I'll just go over it here. But there is a new card in a new 3-mana card called Dogged One. 3-mana 3/1 that comes with Rush. If your opponent super evos while this is in hand, it gives it Storm. So if you're doing the math, you can always see how this combination is really funny. Because if you play Institute of Truth and you just continuously buff Dogged One over and over and over again, you have an 8-mana 8/6 Rush, or 8-mana 8/6 Storm. So if you super evo this, it turns into an 11-mana Storm. Now, obviously, like, Rune doesn't have that many Storm cards, so like dropping your opponent to 11 HP is kind of hard by turn 8. But that's a threat that your opponents might not expect. That's something that your opponent has to respect if it becomes meta. That's something your opponent has to play around if they're really scared about getting slammed by 11 damage randomly. Like, if you play heavy tempo with Rune, again, not very common. But if you're playing something like Dirt obviously has a bit more tempo. It can go face a bit more. It can, have sustained damage. You might play Melantham, who obviously can go face a few times. So if you somehow manage to greed out this combination of Institute of Truth and Dogged One, and just keep buffing and keep going, it's pretty insane. Like, that's a pretty funny combo. And obviously with Raio and other stuff, it can go pretty slowly, pretty fast. So just keep that in mind if you want to play a funny deck. The next card we'll go over is going to be a 4-mana 3/3, Ascetic, I think, of Wuxing. There's going to be a fanfare of summoning a Paper Shigami, which is the 2-mana 2/1 with Rush. And if you evo it, you summon another Paper Shigami. This card is probably not that good. Rune has a lot of 4-mana deal with enemy board somehow cards. Like that one, like Perfumer, 4-mana 3/3, deal 4 to enemy minion. Like, that already exists. This is supposed to be like spell boost support, but you don't really care, I think. Obviously, evoing it is just a worse Angrea, because instead of getting a 5/5 with a 3 damage and a bigger body, you're getting a 5/5 with like 2 2/1s, which is not terrible. But Angrea spell boosts more, and technically has much better clear and much better pressure. So Ascetic of Wuxing is like okay. I think it's like a really quickly for Institute of Truth. Like, this is, I think in Constructed is like a 3 out of 5, and Take 2 is like a 3 out of 5. Not great, but the use cases are very apparent. I think if you manage to make a real deck for cost adjustments, then this will be way better because you get a lot of draw from it. But otherwise, it's like, you know, it's just like, okay, like whatever. But yeah, Ascetic of Wuxing, I must say, is going to be I'd say like 3.5 out of 5 in Constructed, because I think there are scenarios where these spell boosts, like where this is good enough in the mid game. And then Take 2, I think this might be a 4 out of 5, just because you're not guaranteed Angrea. So having like an Angrea and Version like side grade is a lot better in Take 2 because of the fact that Angrea is a legendary. So having Ascetic makes your consistency a little bit better for Take 2, especially since this is a bronze card. So Take 2, this will come up a lot more often, so just way better in that scenario. The other 4-mana card is going to be a 4-mana spell. It is a spell, yeah. So you gain a crest called Crystal Gazing, and this crest is in 2 turns. It explodes, you draw 2 cards, and you deal 4 to all enemy followers. I think this card is actually a 4 out of 5 for Rune, and in both Constructed and in Take 2. Now, it might be a bit of a hot take because you could consider it a worse version of Seraphic Tidings. If you're missing Angrea, you cannot draw into Angrea faster with this. If you're looking for more card draw like later in the game, you can't draw into those cards immediately. But I think on curve, this is technically like impactful enough that you can really ruin your opponent's turn 6 or turn 7. Because imagine Constructed, you play this, you draw, you're going first. You play your usual curve. Turn 4 is usually a bad turn for Rune anyways. So now you're investing your turn 4 into a really, really good turn 6. Because your opponent on their turn 5, on their turn 5, they actually can't play into your turn 6 very aggressively because you're going to deal 4 to them. So it's essentially a free stall in turn 6. Now, of course, with Rune, you do have a lot of response cards. Like, you have Angrea for turn 6 to clear board. You have Burgeon to, like, Evo to clear board. You have a lot of things you can't play on turn 6, which makes Crystal Gazing a little less efficient. So I guess I should reword it to, like, a 3.5 in Constructed and, like, maybe a 4.5 in Take 2, because the effect is a lot better in Take 2. I just think its high roll is really insane. But the issue is that its low roll is that it's unplayable, I guess. So maybe it's not as good as I think it is. So yeah, well, we'll keep it there. I think this card has potential, but you have to be lucky. So it's not that good Constructed, but Take 2. You know, bronze card is fine in Take 2. The next 4-mana card is going to be a spell, Risky Amalgamation. You summon a Guardian Golem and a Clay Golem. Guardian Golem is the 3/3 with a ward, and Clay Golem is a 2/2 with nothing. So it's a 4-mana 5/5 spell boost. It's okay. Nothing great. Again, Rune doesn't really have good turn 4s, so this is kind of like a fix to that bad turn 4, but like, if you draw this late, it's just bad. So I'd say Constructed a 2.5 out of 5, and then in Take 2, I'd say like a 4 out of 5, just because it is just more bodies in Take 2, and that's always fine. Unless your opponent's high rolling, then oh well. Next card is going to be a 5-mana 3/2 Supplicant of Truth. Fanfare, deal 3 to all enemy followers, and if the card's cost is not 5, you draw 2 cards. So I guess the use case is that this will be a 6 drop for the most part, in which case it'll be a 6-mana draw 2, deal 3, which is, again, very okay. It's not great. It's very mediocre, no Evo effect. You're really playing this assuming that you have a cost adjustment somewhere, which is possible, but the issue is that, again, the cost adjustment package is really bad for now. So I think in Constructed, this is like a 2.5 out of 5, and in Take 2, with support in Take 2, 4.5 out of 5, without support, like 1 out of 5, because 5-mana 3/2 deal 3. I mean, actually, no, I'll take that back. I think in Take 2, it's like a 3 out of 5, even without support, because dealing 3 is like decent for a 3/2 body. Like, it's not great, but if you save an Evo because of it, you know, it's okay. It's not anything groundbreaking, but it is playable, and if you somehow adjust its cost, it's just gonna win your game probably in Take 2. The last card is going to be the second legendary, Raio, a 9-mana 9/9. Fanfare, reduce all your followers' costs by 3, and transform a random spell, very specifically a spell, in your hand. It's going to turn it into Ersatz and Elimination, and that spell will be 0 until the end of the turn. And that spell is going to be a 4-mana spell. Increase all of your followers' cost by 1 and destroy all enemy followers. So you're supposed to play these two in conjunction. So this card, spell boost, basically unplayable because of that target a random spell condition. But if you're playing Dirt, I think this card in Dirt is like a 4.5 out of 5 in Constructed. And I think in take 2, this is probably a 5 out of 5. In take 2, assuming you make it to turn 9, which of course might not happen, like this will break some backs in take 2 because you have such cheap minions. Like Rune naturally comes with a lot of draw. You clear the board with a 9/9 still, essentially. And of course the downside of Urstat's elimination is a little ugly, but it's a clear board. Your opponent has to use Evos to deal with this card for the most part, else they have like a 4 mana execute spell, which is pretty common in take 2. But the main thing is that like all of your cards are super cheap, so if you have any draw at all in take 2, you'll be flooding your opponent's board in a time where Evos are very hard to come by. So in take 2, Raio is really, really good, and if we somehow manage to make a really powerful dirt package in Constructed, this card goes from like being mid in Constructed to being like the main reason why dirt is super overpowered in Constructed. So yeah, that'll be my Rune analysis, and then hopefully somewhere I'll have the rest of the deck analysis or the set analysis there. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys in the next one.